I initially set everything up to sit here and film, but I got a little seat stealer, so I had to switch around where the camera was a little bit. So I wanted to tell a story today about how I got to where I am. And this is a journey of mental health, along with my art. So I've struggled a lot over the years, going back to certainly high school, definitely college, choices that I made after college, and a lot of things can be tied back now, but at the time I didn't know or recognize what was happening. I kind of basically was just always failing. It sounds terrible to say, but I was always never achieving what I thought I should be able to achieve. I was never where I thought I should be for my age and my goals and my dreams. I was always stuck, very, very stuck, and I didn't understand why. So I was one of those late ADHD diagnosis cases. I got mine when I was in my late 30s, so just, a couple of years ago. And being able to look back through the lens of understanding that and learning what I've learned since then, things start to make a lot more sense. The struggles that I had. ADHD, when it's not diagnosed, and I'm going to put a link in the description to a talk about what that looks like in adults, and especially for women who are very often, especially anybody of my age, roundabouts my age, older, a little younger, we weren't commonly diagnosed as children because it looked differently and people weren't looking for that. It is something that we are only now starting to have come up as being significant issues in our lives, and then it makes sense when you look back. It led to me having kind of terrible self-image and ideas of self-worth. So because of the things I struggled with, which I didn't really understand why. Like, I was smart, I could do well on tests, and I was always good at certain things, but I was also very forgetful and scattered and always hard to follow through on things. College was really not a great time for me, and I didn't understand why. And all of those things just kind of became this loop of life demonstrating that I wasn't good enough, and then the belief that I wasn't good enough. It just kept feeding itself, and it became this downward spiral of me making decisions that weren't beneficial to me because I couldn't see any better or worse for myself. I couldn't tell the difference between somebody not treating me great when I already didn't treat myself great. So those were some really tough years, and compounding non-diagnosed ADHD and trauma. It led to a lot of years of my adult life of just being stuck. And that stuck led to diagnoses initially of anxiety and depression. And I definitely developed anxiety and depression over my life. I've struggled a lot with those things and never recognized it because I had this vision in my head about what that meant. Like, somebody who's depressed, they can't get out of bed, right? They just lay in a dark room all day long, they don't go to work, and they just cry, and that's what depression looks like, isn't it? And for anxiety, that's just somebody, again, who's just like curled up in a corner and shaking and crying, and they can't function in the world at all. So I had these like stereotypical ideas in my head of what those looked like, and you can blame media and anything else, just the lack of communication about what's real about those things, not knowing people who dealt with those things, or people not talking about it. So I think it's now really important to talk about these things and to be honest about our experiences, because it's pretty normal. 1 in 5 women, actually 1 in 5 people in the US in a given year have a diagnosable mental illness. So it's not unusual. It's fairly normal. So we should be willing to normalize it. So yeah, I mean, these have been my struggles. I have dealt so long with just spinning my wheels and not achieving things and feeling bad about it, taking it as like a failure, just failures of my own. Not because I think differently, I function differently. I didn't know how to work with that. I tried all the, what you would call the neurotypical solutions for organizing and productivity. I tried all the recommendations for, this is, if you exercise, if you do this, if you do that. And I tried, it would never work. And then that would just lead to more self-criticism. So it's a lot of years of that. Get some pretty well-trodden pathways in your mind that become hard to overcome, but I'm working at that. But I've been able to finally make some strides with the help of treatment and therapy and just understanding. And I want to go look back and talk about how, while I wasn't understanding what was going on with me on the surface, I kind of did on a deep down level. I knew that things weren't right. I knew I wasn't dealing with these really dark sides and emotions and things very well. I knew I wasn't making the best decisions on some kind of level, and the play out of that, the only place it was coming out was in my art. My art has been a bit of a diary from the time I was in college onward, even in high school. And I gotta decide if I wanna show you guys anything from that era, because high school is high school and you're angsty, miserable kid that's super dramatic, and it's a little embarrassing. But you know what the heck? A lot of my old artwork I could look at as being embarrassing because I've come a long way since I produced those things. But yeah, okay, I'll show you. We'll do a little show and tell. And I'm gonna show you how art was something that saved me. Even though I was mentally struggling for so long, it was my outlet. It was where I processed emotions that I couldn't otherwise. And I've touched on this in other videos, and probably I talk about it on social media a little bit and a little bit during my live streams, but I really wanted to lay it all out. This is what my art is about, and it always has been when I didn't even realize it. I am talking about mental health. I am talking about especially my own. It's from my own perspective and experience. But as I said, this stuff is all fairly normal. A lot of us are experiencing these things. Undiagnosed neurodivergence, undiagnosed even depression and anxiety, and even when those are diagnosed and trying to accept them and understand it and work through it. It's hard if you don't have the right support. It's hard if you don't know what's going on and you just are judging yourself. But anyway, I'm Lynell Ingram. I'm an artist. This is what I do. I make artwork that talks about women's mental health with the intention of using it to help destigmatize women's mental illnesses, because it is normal. And the more that we know what it looks like, the more that we can talk openly about it, what the experience is, how to cope better, what kind of support we have for each other. Maybe we can not only have better outcomes from it, but better just avoidance of it, be better systems put in place to have access to care and also to support ourselves before we get to a breaking point. Because I really did kind of hit a breaking point before I finally reached out and got some help. I was working in an office job and I was feeling a little burnt out there. It wasn't the healthiest situation, and I was burnt out in my own home life, wasn't able to keep up with things. I wasn't able to work on the things I really wanted to work on, and it was so frustrating. And I just reached this point of like numbness. It was like not feeling anything, not caring about anything. And I knew that it wasn't a good place to be. I knew that if I stayed there for much longer, I wasn't sure how bad things could get, but they couldn't get much worse. So I actually utilized my work's EAP program, the Employee Assistance Program, and started with therapy there, and then got a referral from that therapist to a psychiatrist. And from there, I've been able to work out the right treatments, and it's always a work in progress. I have a great therapist right now. She is the best, and she's helped me a lot. It's taken a few to get to the right fit for me, but it's still an ongoing journey. I'm still in treatment. I'm still working in therapy on a lot of things. ADHD isn't going anywhere, and I just have to do my best to find ways to work around it. Yes, it does have some benefits and strengths, but it makes things really hard too. So it's an ongoing journey, and as far as our mental health goes, that journey doesn't ever really end. Taking care of ourselves and trying to build good lives for ourselves and our well-being it's our lives. It is just inherently a part of us living our lives. I hope you enjoyed that little show and tell, and I don't know if you can relate to anything that I've talked about. I'm not trying to give information that would let you go out and diagnose yourself with anything. I'm just sharing my story and letting you know that if you are struggling, you're not alone. So all this to say that my mental health and my artistic self have always been so deeply intertwined, and it's just as what I work with. It's where my passion lies in communicating with art. I have a blog where I talk more about mental health, so if you sign up for my newsletter, you will get emails when I post blogs, which I work at about being once a week. But like I said, I'm ADHD, so I do the best that I can and try to allow myself some grace for when things don't always happen along the planned timeline. And I hope that you will like and subscribe. I will be making more videos kind of talking about the tie-in of my work and mental health and sharing resources and interesting information as I find it, because psychology is fascinating. Our brains are so weird. It's great and frustrating. But I will continue to be posting here twice a week. I'm here for between an hour and a half and 2 hours at a time, painting live. And I like to chat with you, anybody who wants to show up and have a talk about anything. I might talk about what I'm reading about or learning about mental health, movies I'm watching, and of course the artwork I'm making. So feel free to pop in. I hope you will, because I love having people to chat with when I'm working. And that's Mondays, 7 p.m. at night, that's Central Time, and Thursday mornings at 10 a.m., again, Central US Time. So subscribe and join along for my continued journey, and I hope that my story or my artwork can maybe help somebody else along the way. And thank you so much for being here and watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.